Well, there's Callum Mills jumping in his car now. I might get him to come over here and answer it. But, I mean, the comments after the game from Damien were completely unnecessary and unwarranted. They just weren't correct. And we didn't play an extra defender. Richmond bring a player up around the ball. They've been doing it for a long time. We just held our 6 defenders in place. If Damien didn't want to do that, he could have brought his forward back in and just played 6, 6 and 6, and the issue would have been done. I'm not sure it's my role to walk up to Damien's coach's box, knock on the door and say, what would you like us to do? So that's how it happened. Well, I thought that the coaches were really collegiate, and I was hoping that that'd still be the case. But we've got to be careful, I reckon, as an industry. We don't drop into this habit of potting other people and finger pointing. It's it's a bit of a challenging time for all of us, and I just think we just need to take a deep breath and help each other through this. I mean, Damien called me straight after the game. He apologised for the comments, which was appreciated. But as I said to Damien, they're out there. Now you've got to have a press conference and talk about them. So from my angle, we did not go in to play an extra number behind the ball. And you can look at all the stoppages, and the majority of the times, we mightn't have got everyone right, but the majority of the time, that's what the plan was. Now, in an off-ball sense, the best team in the last 3 years of getting support behind the ball has been Richmond. You know, their wingers and what they do has been outstanding, fantastic. And I guess, from my perspective, I've been around the coaching industry for a long time, is that I try not to make comments on other teams. But we've just slipped into a bit of a habit of giving strong opinions on other teams, and it's just unnecessary. He just said he was frustrated. I said, okay, if you're frustrated, just bring your forward back from the up around the ball, which you normally play, and play 6 forwards in front of the ball. Done. Pretty simple. Well, we clearly want to score. Clearly we want to score more than 3 goals. There's a few things at play here. I think if you just take a step back from the scoring aspect and just look at our team on the weekend, I mean, I've explained what happened. We didn't play an extra behind the ball. We just held our structure, like you do at centre bounces. And the next part of the equation was we went into the game with Heaney at centre half forward and Parker full forward. Now, 5 minutes in, we lose Parker because he has to go into the midfield to replace Josh Kennedy, who went down injured. Our forward line then looks really small. We haven't got any presence in front of the ball like Richmond have with Lynch and Rewalt. Sometimes that presence ahead of the ball means you do tend to play a bit forward. It draws the ball in as key forwards. So I just think there's the scoring issue, but there's certainly some issues from week to week that we can look at. But there's also, just remember that these guys aren't training like they used to. They're in small groups. If you've got a young developing team, they're coming off a long break. There's all of these things that go into it. It's not going to be perfect. Every game's not going to be perfect. Clearly we try and score more than 3 goals. That's obvious. We're not out to score 3 goals in a game. I'd be staggered if anyone thought that. So we want to score more. That's what we want to do. But sometimes these things happen, and it's not always one team's fault. Do we get anyone back? Unfortunately, we're not sure yet. So we won't know until this week. There's a couple at a chance, but at the moment we've got probably 8 or 9 over 194 centimetres on our injured list. So we're going to try and hopefully get a couple back. Once again, it's not an excuse, it's a reason. And so we'd like to get a bit more structure ahead of the ball. We'd like to be able to do that, and hopefully we can. If it's not this week, we'll continue to work at different ways to make sure that we can score better. And we'll continue to try and improve that. But there's also a reality to the situation, and we're going to be doing whatever we can to get those scoring numbers up. Callum Sinclair's a chance. We played Hayden McLean on the weekend as a 196 centimetre ruckman against Soldo, who's a premiership ruckman, a big guy. So we'd like to be able to get Callum in. We're not sure about McCartan. Reid, we probably don't think's done enough training just yet. So we need some players to come back in from that injury list. That'd be really useful, particularly now we've lost 2 players. Heaney's out for the season, and Kennedy's 6 to 8 weeks. So we need to get some players back. Yes. He's having an ankle operation this afternoon, and so he's got a ruptured medial ligament in his ankle, and also the tendon tunnel has been ruptured as well on his ankle. So he's out for the year. He gets an operation this afternoon. He's in a moon boot for 8 weeks. So, and that's really unfortunate for him and us. Isaacs works so hard at his game. He plays a lot of the times with all sorts of injuries that no one would know. He's as hard as one of the hardest players we've got. And so when he went down with an injury after the game, I knew it was significant because he's tough. I had a coffee with him this morning, and he was hoping on the bright side, but he was sort of looking at his ankle and it was pretty big and swollen. And I think he was fingers crossed, but knowing there was some significant damage, and there was.
Obviously, the article came out last week saying not going to be any mid-season draft. Do you have any hope whatsoever of something in your listing in any way?
No. And I don't think the purpose of the mid-season draft is where do you get them from? As I said last week, there's just no players. Yeah, maybe that's, but I just can't see. There's so much going on at the moment. There's so many issues that the AFL are dealing with, and just making sure that the games keep continuing. So I can't see any changes happening in that regard. No. I mean, we had a significant run last year, probably certainly the back end of the year, but this is probably taking it to a new level, and there's certainly with different types, you can handle injuries across your list, but when they become in one particular area like height or defenders or forwards or whatever they are, you need to make sure you juggle, and we'll be okay. We'll juggle. We'll continue to work hard and try and get the best setup, and we'll continue to play players that we think can give us the best chance of winning, and we're going to absolutely have a real crack at that this week. Only because we've got injuries on and players out doesn't mean we don't go out there every week thinking and having a real belief that we want to win the game. He's quite a few weeks off, Tom. So Josh has strained his medial ligament in his knee, so he's in a brace for probably 5 weeks. 3 to 5 weeks, and then maybe that 6 to 8 week mark. And he's been fantastic. He and Isaac have been really good for us this year. Yes, absolutely. There's a couple that'll get a go. We're not quite sure yet. I won't talk about it just yet. But we'd be really keen to keep bringing some more players into the team and giving some opportunities. And we'll look to do that. Not exactly sure whether it'll be this week, but it's a big chance.
What's the situation with
Yeah, he just came back, and it hasn't played that well over the last few weeks. So he's really our only key position player out of the team that's been hasn't been injured. So we just had to try and get him back into a bit of form. We've been working through that over the last 3 or 4 weeks, and we hadn't been sort of making the steps forward that we wanted to, or he wanted to. So we just thought we trained him here really well on Saturday. He got through that, so hopefully he gets going and gets back in the senior team as soon as we can, because clearly we need him.
John, there's I guess a bit of a history of commentary in the past about the Swans, and I guess the way you guys play the game.
Don't get caught up in that. This is a bit of a different situation.
I was going to say, do you think that maybe you become an easy target when things like this because of that?
Who knows? I think every situation's a bit different. You just can't bundle it all in together. We've clearly got a situation that's quite unique. Now, I don't think anyone's saying it's not. Now, some games in the weekend we're able to score a little bit heavier, but there's some structural things. There's some things that we didn't get right during the course of the game. Could we have gone forward with a bit more urgency at times? Absolutely, we could have. We look up and there's a couple of really experienced defenders, premiership defenders standing there, and maybe our young forwards got pulled out of position at times, which prevented that. So, I prefer to focus on that than what's happened in the past.
been.
Yeah, it is. I just, I mean, I had to comment today about Richmond, what they did, because it was clearly in a defensive aspect. But I don't make it my mission to coach or to comment on other clubs. I just can't understand it. I never have been able to understand it. I find it difficult enough to coach our own club. We've got enough on my plate. Look after our own players without giving advice to others, and just think it's unnecessary. Yeah, good player. Good player. I've always heard he's been a good player. I watched him at under 18 level, knew he was a good player, and then he's got some special qualities, some real special qualities. And I think he had 6 scoring shots, 3 goals. It's a reasonable feat in your first game. Anyone that's got real talent like that's always tough. I might have to ring Nick Smith up.